Hi, 6th graders. Today we're going to look into the world of probability. By the end of this lesson, you want to be able to find and interpret the probability of a simple event, and actually also know what we mean when I say a simple event. So I want you to read through this situation and kind of answer the questions as you would, and then I'll kind of go through it. So if you want to pause the video and try, that would be awesome. Alright, so I'm playing a game where I pull a marble out of a bag. In the bag, there are a yellow, a blue, a red, a white, and a pink marble. In order to win, I have to pick the yellow marble. What ratio would compare the number of yellow marbles to the total number of marbles? So there is, one yellow out of, if we go up here, we have yellow, blue, red, white, pink. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the ratio would be 1 to 5. What percent of the marbles are yellow? So as we were working on earlier, since it's 1/5, we can make that 1 out of 5. So times 20 times 20, so it would be 20% of the marbles are yellow. Do I have a good chance of selecting the yellow marble? Now this is kind of your own judgment, but I would say no, because you only have a 20% chance of selecting the yellow marble, whereas you have an 80% chance of not selecting it. What would happen to my chance if a green, a purple, and an orange, and a teal marble were all added? Well, my chances of picking the yellow would be even lower, because now there's more options but still only the one yellow marble. What would happen to my chances if there was only one yellow marble and one pink marble? The chances would increase. And I would have a 50% chance there, because half the marbles would be yellow. And what would happen to my chances if there was only a yellow marble in the bag? Well, then it would be certain that I would pick the yellow, because it's the only option of what I can pick. So let's go into some definitions. When I talk about outcomes, we're talking about all the possible ways an event can occur. A simple event is one outcome or a collection of outcomes, and the probability is the chance that some event will occur. So in our first example with a yellow, a blue, a white, red, and pink marble, there were 5 outcomes. So you'd 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The simple event, and so the 5 would be like picking the yellow, picking the blue, white, red, or pink. The simple event was picking a yellow, because that's what we were looking at. And the probability is a ratio that compares the number of favorable outcomes to the total number of possible outcomes. So in this case, the picking the yellow would be 1 out of 5, because there's one favorable way to get it and 5 possible outcomes. Picking blue would also be 1 out of 5, and picking purple would also, and picking purple would actually be not 1 out of 5, but 0 out of 5, because there was no purple marble. So basically when we're looking at probabilities, the largest possible probability is 1 or 100%, meaning that it'll always happen, and the smallest probability would be 0, meaning it cannot happen. So like in this case of the picking purple, it would be 0 because there were no purple marbles, so obviously the chance of picking a purple marble would be 0 then. So when we're talking about probability, we also talk about whether an event is random, which means each outcome is equally likely to occur. Now that doesn't mean that each outcome has the same number of chances. So like with the marbles, if all of a sudden we put 2 yellow marbles in and all the rest of them are 1, but it means that because there's 2 marbles, those are 2 different outcomes because they're technically 2 different marbles, that each of them is equally likely to occur, which is probably kind of confusing. I have a 6-sided number cube, which is a die, with each side labeled with a number from 1 to 6. So the probability, which is what that P means, of rolling a 6 would be There's one way to have a 6 out of the 6 sides. Now what's the probability of rolling a 2, 3, or 4? Since there's 3 different outcomes there, there's 3 out of 6, or the probability is 1/2. Now I want you to pause the video and do the next two on your own. So what's the probability you would roll an odd number? So an odd number would be 1, 3, and 5. So it would be 3 out of 6, or 1/2. And the probability of an even number would also be 3 out of 6, or 1/2. Another thing that you want to look at when we're talking about probability that's useful is talking about complementary events. Complementary events are two events in which either one or the other must happen, but both cannot happen at the same time. When added, their probabilities must always equal 1. So for example, if we look at the probability of rolling a 6, we've talked about that it's 1 out of 6. But the probability of not rolling a 6, well, there's 5 numbers that aren't 6, would be 5 out of 6. And if I take 1/6 plus 5/6, I get the 6/6, or 1. And that can be helpful because sometimes it's easier to look at the ways that you aren't going to satisfy the event than actually adding up all the ways that you would satisfy the event. Don't forget to leave a question on Edmodo, and we will talk more about this tomorrow.